Rams running back Abu Sama hammered through the Maroons defense for 159 yards and 4 TDs. Waukee Northwest was able to run with Valley for a half, but ultimately the Tigers pulled away in half number 2 to secure the 17-7 victory over the Wolves. A replay of Dowling Catholic and Waukee Northwest can be seen in Central Iowa beginning at 10 o'clock tonight, right here on MC22. Week 2 action in the Quad Cities continues with a District 5 rivalry between Davenport North and West. The visiting North Wildcats have third-year starter Nolan Moser under center. Last season, Moser threw for 1,400 yards and 11 touchdowns. The West Falcons want to use the ground and pound attack and move the chains, use that ball control game. Last season's leading rusher Tucker Avis ran for 490 yards and averaged 5 yards per carry. This week in the tri-state area, you can catch Davenport Assumption and Wahlert Catholic. Wahlert looks to avenge another loss from last year after beating West Delaware in week 1. Running back Ryan Brocious led the Eagles with 2 touchdowns, while the defense created 4 big turnovers. Assumption beat Wahlert last year 48-14. Assumption hasn't played since week 0, had the week off last week after a victory over Independence. They have a very balanced offensive attack as usual, led by senior running back Derek Bass. In Northwest Iowa, 2-time state champions Spirit Lake, the Indians are hosting the Forest City Indians in a regional rivalry. It's the Indians and Indians again. CMAC opens play up for Capital City and battle as the Cavaliers take on the Spartans in Columbia, Missouri for the first time in school history. Capital City will have a senior quarterback commanding the offense in Hayden Carroll. He's been spectacular. The Spartans on the other side have high expectations set by second-year head coach Jonah Dubinsky. Ricky Dunn returns to the field for the Spartans and looks to continue making plays on both sides of the football after winning 2 all-conference accolades and Boone County Defensive Player of the Year a season ago. Capital City has never won a road game, let alone defeat a team from Columbia. What will happen this week? Week 2 of the high school football season in Southwest Missouri. We'll see the 1-0 Ava Bears go on the road to take on the Indians of Stratford. For the first time in a decade, the Bears have a new head coach in Casey Merrifield, who takes over for Don Swafford. No coaching change for the Indians, as Tim Hester has been with the program for 22 years. This game is a postseason rematch from 2021, when the Bears ended the Indians' season in the district tournament. We'll be back and preview next week's action on MC22 after the break. And welcome back to the Extreme Halftime Show powered by Mediacom. I'm Rob Brooks, and let's take a look at what you can see right here on MC22 next week. 2 rebuilding programs will be featured in week 3. It's Davenport Central and Cedar Rapids Jefferson. Both teams winless after week 1 and losing by over 40 points. But both schools have new head coaches, new enthusiasm. Alex Berg for Central and Ed Miles, who played at the University of Iowa, and also the Miami Dolphins in the NFL for Jefferson. Both understand success, not going to happen overnight, but a great matchup to the players to get an opportunity to measure their progress now with the season in full swing. We head to Indianola for a 4A matchup between the Indians and the Pella Dutch. Pella dropped its opener to Norwalk, while Indianola took down 5A's Ankeny Centennial in a close game. Both teams featured very balanced attacks on offense. Next week, catch Iowa City Liberty, who had an opening season victory against City High at Kinnick. They will be in Epworth to take on Western Dubuque. Two Northwest Iowa powerhouses collide in Spirit Lake as the Indians take on the Western Christian Wolfpack. Live coverage on MC22 begins Friday night at 7 o'clock in Northwest Iowa. Battle hits the road in week 3 to take on the Elias Crusaders in Jefferson City, Missouri. So far, Elias has taken care of business here in 2022 by starting out the year on a high note with an impressive 31-21 road win over Hannibal in week 1. On the other side, Battle struggled in its first game as Park Hill shellacked the Spartans 68-38. Can Battle right the ship as they attempt to get back on the right track in CMAC play? The Ozark Conference will be center stage next week in Southwest Missouri when the Glendale Falcons play host to the Bulldogs of Missouri Rolla. An early season conference matchup means there is a lot on both sides to play for. The Falcons offense is already flying high, putting up 48 points in week number 1. And there is a little bit of a revenge factor as well for Rolla, as you remember, they played Glendale in the playoffs, and that ended the Bulldogs season a year ago in Springfield when the Falcons beat them in the Class 5A state tournament by the final 34-28. Thanks so much for joining us for the Extreme halftime show powered by Mediacom right here on MC22. Stay tuned for second half action of your local MC22 game after these messages.
On the latest episode of QC Eats, we head to the farmers market at the Freight House in downtown Davenport. This farmers market has a ton of vendors with bright colors, enticing aromas, and bold flavors. Watch QC Eats on Mediacom's MC22. Find it on demand or mc22.net for your local airtimes.
Hi, I'm Mercedes Fobb at the Captured on Canvas studio. On this month's episode of Picture This, we are going to be doing a fall scene. Nice blue skies, an old vintage truck driving away, loaded with pumpkins, on a dirt path, even framed with some wheat. Make sure to check your local listings for airtimes or catch us on demand at mc22.net.
Well, welcome back to Battle High School here in Columbia, Missouri. We're in halftime of the second MC22 Mid-Missouri High School Game of the Week broadcast. And let's take a look at the game overview presented by Mediacom Bolt. We're taking fast further. Be among the first in your community to get lightning fast internet by pre-registering at MediacomCable.com/Bolt. Joe, the numbers speak for themselves. Ton of offense. The defenses have not been as bad as the numbers show, but I think the turnovers are where you see the discrepancies.
No question. It's once again just a tale of one team giveth, one team taketh away. But yeah, both teams just on each other's toes, as you see. Battle with 219 yards, kick-started by the 88-yard return to start the ball game. But then Capital City answering right back with a quick 40-yard run of their own. And yet we see these teams just go toe-to-toe with each other. But we see the stark difference if you take a look between passing and rushing. Battle doing it primarily, well, mostly in the air. A lot on the ground, too, 120-99. Capital City, it's been all, I would say, the vast majority on the ground, 157-45. And really, their two big guys in Hurley Jacobs and Jalen Thomas getting it done for the Cavaliers. And yet, we still got 24 minutes to go, maybe more.
Yeah, and let's take a look at some of those first half highlights, just the opportunities that these guys have taken advantage of in this first half. And it started off with a big punt return or kick return for a TD score by Keelan Hoare.
And Keelan Hoare, just one of the big targets that Justin Goolsby looks out for. He's been absolutely electric tonight for the Spartans. But yet, there's Thomas for Capital City getting it done too. He's got 2 touchdowns as well.
Yeah, he's done a great job of balancing that rushing attack between him and Hurley Jacobs. And he's shown the ability to punch it in. Him and Jacobs have been the go-to behind.
And really just they're both punching out from each other, finding open gaps just like that as well, too. It's going to be a shootout, my friend, and we are going to have a lot of fun coming up here in this second half.
Yeah, Justin Goolsby has been the leader for this Battle Spartan team, and Ricky Dunn has helped him out. We'll see what they can do in the second half. We'll be right back right after this.
On the latest episode of QC Eats, we head to the farmers market at the Freight House in downtown Davenport. This farmers market has a ton of vendors with bright colors, enticing aromas, and bold flavors. Watch QC Eats on Mediacom's MC22. Find it on demand or mc22.net for your local airtimes.
You're watching the Mid-Missouri High School Game of the Week right here on MC22. We're at halftime of the Capital City and Battle game right here at Battle High School. It's knotted up at 26 all, but CMAC games going on all around the city. Hannibal, Jefferson City, Hannibal Pirates leading by 7 at the score. Helias leading big over Hickman. We were at Hickman last week and we saw them fall to North Kansas City by a score of 28-0. So that was a tough game last week. Hickman falling on tough times here in week number 2. But Rockbridge bouncing back big after a big loss last week, leading 35-0 over Smith Cotton. So Joe, CMAC scores have looked just all over the place this weekend. You've got some lopsided ones, you see some close games.
And I mean, that's really what you expect with CMAC play. You have teams that are really just kind of the cream de la creme, as we see, and Helias, once again, still have yet to lose the CMAC game since the conference formation in 2020, as we got some stats from that game right now. 28 for 147 rushing yards tonight, 12 first downs, and only 36 passing yards. Meanwhile, Hickman, 16 carries, only 31 yards for rushing, and only 32 passing, 6 first downs. So it's safe to say Helias just get...
Yeah, it's been tough for Helias, or tough for Hickman rather, to find their groove under Cedric Alvis and company. But I think the big piece of it is you've got to let them grow. They just went, not too long ago, went through that redistricting phase where a lot of kids who had gone to Hickman now go to Battle. So, Coach Dubinsky won on that, but Cedric Alvis lost out. So it's a tough draw for them. They got to claw their way back.
And that said, we did see a bunch of youth and really some bright spots that they can build on down the road. Not just this season, but potentially down the road. Because keep in mind, their roster is primarily built of sophomores and juniors, or sophomores and freshmen, I should say, from last year's squad. So not a lot of seniors on that Hickman team, so we can only see them grow. But Helias, again, showing why they have been the kings of the CMAC and then some, getting a big win even in week 1 against the Hannibal Pirates.
And how about Hannibal against Jefferson City? Jefferson City came out, scored 21 unanswered points. Hannibal able to respond with 21 unanswered points. They lead by 7 at the break, so it's been lopsided on one side of the CMAC, and on the other side it's been close to a T. So we will see what comes to fruition here in the second half, but I think the big thing that we want to see is a continuation of the first half. If you're a fan, Joe, I know the coaches might want to see something different, but from my perspective, keep the guns blazing.
Absolutely, keep that offense going. That's exactly what they're doing in Sedalia tonight. It's 35-0 the score in Sedalia, with the Bruins and the Smith Cotton Tigers under first-year head coach Matt Perkins. He wanted to bring a high-octane offense. He certainly got that in 35-0. We've got some high-octane offenses happening here on the east side of Columbia between two of the youngest programs in the region, and yet they are the two most entertaining, and we have them right here tonight.
Can't ask for more, Joe. We've got the second half between Battle and Capital City and week number 2 of your Mid-Missouri High School Game of the Week right here on Mediacom. We'll be back in just a bit.
2 seconds, 1 second for the win. Oh, it's good. Bruce Thornton for the win.
Did you miss that buzzer-beating shot or want to watch it again and again? Visit our updated website, mc22.net. Register for an account today and start watching live and on-demand sports, shows, and more. The new and improved mc22.net.
Well, welcome back to your Mid-Missouri High School Game of the Week right here on MC22. Cam Thomas alongside Joe Northern as we get you all set and ready to go for the second half of action between the Battle Spartans and the Capital City Cavaliers. Just about ready to go here for the second half of action. But Joe, as we look back and recap a little bit of that first half, you know, we saw so much offensive prowess from both of these teams, but I think the run game was sneaky good for Battle, but obviously it was just so evident in the game plan for Capital City, using Taylor and Hurley Jacobs as that tandem in the backfield.
No question. They're the dual threat that you're going to be seeing a lot of this year with the Capital City Cavaliers, and we saw it dominate with Jacobs last week, but now we're really trying to see a little bit more of that with them this year, or I should say, or at least in this game, between Taylor and Jacobs. They've had the natural energy, and we take a look at last week for Jacobs. Look at that, 197 rushing yards. Team had 274 total, 20 carries. You're averaging just under a first down a carry. He's going to be the big threat that the Cavaliers are going to lean on this season. And you also have Taylor, too. He's already got 2 touchdowns tonight. He's been making the run as well for the Cavaliers. So we're going to see if they can continue to pile it on. And I want to see how each defense can hold this evening, too, because the big thing is, we were talking about special teams was going to be making a difference with the 2-point conversions. But I feel like at this point, who is going to get the bigger stops? Who's going to force those plays to turn it over? Who is really just going to be stepping up late and make an impact off the score this evening? So we're going to see that happen in this second half.
We'll find out right after this second half coming up next on MC22.
Hi, I'm Mercedes Fobb at the Captured on Canvas studio. On this month's episode of Picture This, we are going to be doing a fall scene. Nice blue skies, an old vintage truck driving away, loaded with pumpkins, on a dirt path, even framed with some weeds. Make sure to check your local listings for air times or catch us on demand at mc22.net.
There are the Capital City Cavaliers who have traveled from Jefferson City right here to Columbia, Missouri to take on the Battle Spartans, and they have brought a huge offense, a great defense, and the ability to hang with the big boys of Battle here in Como.
No question, and once again, this is a team that has only won, well, at least prior to this season, only 2 games overall, 1 in each season. And in fact, I believe you guys were there for one of those games. Our producer James Stanley called, I believe, the inaugural win against Kirksville 2 years ago. So now to possibly double that up and go 2-0 to start the year, Capital City would love a big upset here tonight, but Battles that wants to say, not so fast. We've got 24 minutes left to go. Potentially more.
We always love the tidbits that we get from our producer, James Stanley. As Thomas will receive the football for Capital City on the first possession of the third, trying to work through some traffic and knocked out of bounds at the 25-yard line. Taylor, as we mentioned earlier, able to punch through a couple of scores in that first half, but he's been a premier returner for this Capital City squad as well.
No question. He's been really just kind of that spark plug that can really kind of sneak past the up front, or I should say the up front line for Battle's defense, and yet Capital City, they look a little bit bigger on the defensive side, at least on their O-line, we should say. able to have maybe just a few inches more up top than what we've been seeing with Battle. Not saying that Battle's defense isn't strong, but it is a little undersized compared to what we've seen this evening.
Hurley Jacobs on a 1st and 10 run makes it up to the 33-yard line for a gain of 6. Jacobs, of course, you saw the large screen graphic before the start of the second half, almost eclipsed 200 yards last week. But here's the thing, Joe. I think we'd be remiss if we didn't mention it's about volume, because Hayden Carroll only threw 3 passes last week. So some of it's all ability, but some of it's about volume.
No question. And, you talk about volume, talk about the volume from Taylor as he's still going.
And now the ball's on the floor, but I think forward progress will mark him down.
There was a whistle before he was able to pop on out. But yeah, forward progress coming from Taylor. As our officiating crew is going to take a look at that just a little bit more, but we'll see if it's going to remain with the Cavaliers, and it will.
Not a bad idea.
And a first down, too.
Not a bad idea to try to pick it up from Mekhi Pointner. You'll see it right there.
Had the right idea, but you had to rule in on the forward progress, so no dice today.
And they'll give it back to Jacobs on 1st and 10 from about midfield. He'll get up to the 47-yard line.
And as we take a look, once again, for those of you just joining us this evening, we've noticed that these two teams have just been really toe-to-toe. Anytime that one team has scored, the next possession, Capital City would come back and strike right back at you. And then same for defensive stops. It just really hasn't seemed that one team has had an advantage over another this evening. So it's just been really competitive football between these two.
They stay consistent with the offensive set, but they fake the handoff to Jacobs and pitch it to Thomas, who weaves his way through some defenders and gets the first down and more across the 45 in the Battle Spartan territory, and another first down for Capital City as they roar with that wingback offense.
And that's really what Joe Collier wants to try to keep running with those sneaky pitches to try to get, really not only try to get Jacobs, but to make Thomas kind of that centerpiece of those pitches and really try to sneak them past on the right side of Battle's D line. So great play calling, great offensive pressure, and really great time management we're seeing on this drive too from Cap City.
2 wide receivers set out to the left to the formation for Carroll. He hands off to Jacobs. And no, that's not Jacobs. That's Joseph Schaefer.